Okay, that was shocking in quite a few ways. Alright, jumping into it. So, the episode starts with Jeff showing up at Takeo like I expected him to. And then he goes to Terry like I expected him to and tells Terry that he needs to leave the game. Now, before any of you cry foul, read Dalton Ross's Q&A with Jeff, and then you'll learn that Jeff went to camp with the full intention of making sure that Terry left the game because of this situation. There was no option of Terry staying there. His wife told him he needed to come home. Jeff felt exactly the same way and just, yeah. So, right. And if you're wondering why he didn't tell Terry exactly what was going on right then, well, one, he didn't know all the details, and two, even if he knew them, apparently, according to Terry, Jeff actually couldn't tell him all the details right then because of various rules. I don't know where they come from, but it doesn't really matter. That's the reason why, huh? So it's a bummer that happened to Terry, you know, because, like, he did get pretty close last time, and then he fell short, and then he comes back, and then he has to leave the game because of abnormal circumstances. Especially since we had finally just broken the trend of every season having somebody leave the game via quit or medevac, even though this isn't really either of those, because this is not a case where somebody quits the game. Jeff went to them, you know, with the full intention of getting Terry from the game. There was no option of Terry staying in Jeff's mind, so this is not a quit. This is either an evacuation or a pullout, or whatever Jeff wants to call it, so yeah, but the problem I have with this is not the fact that they did that, it's the fact that they showed that it was probably going to happen to Terry in the last week bit, so yeah, I am sympathetic towards him, but I'm less sympathetic than I would have been had I been kept in the dark about this. Yeah, producers, really? You could have left it a lot more anonymous than you did. Right. So skipping to the reward challenge, I think that was actually a good move, because, as I stated last week, Bion had fixed their problems, although I think it's a tad bit of a bummer that we didn't get to see Kelly Wigglesworth's thoughts on it afterward. And does anyone notice that, you know, when she was mentioning the fact that you do anything for your kid, Kelly looked right at Spencer? I mean, like, she did write his name down this episode, but I just thought that was kind of amusing. But then, because there's 14 people, they have another swap, and they go right back to 2. And does anyone realize that the Curse of Saboga is kind of still in play here? Because Anchor lost the first 2 immunities and was dissolved? So we really need to see if one member from that tribe is the last person voted out, or 4th place, whatever you want to call it. So, let's pay attention to that and see if that trend continues. Even though many will argue, well, it's not true, because of Saboga, because they didn't do the 4th immunity. Well, remember, they didn't do the 3rd immunity in All-Stars, Right. So the reward challenge, I wasn't really picky who won that, to be honest. And Takeo winning, just, yeah, you know, just, that's how the chips fall, although I was pretty impressed at how close a good amount of the matches are, but why didn't they, you know, play to 4? That way everybody could have gone? I mean, like, they could have edited or changed it so it appeared that there were fewer matches than needed. They have done that before, trust me on this, but I find it odd that they didn't, you know, have everybody go. And it's not like what happened in HVV episode 4 or 5 reward challenge, where like one person from either the villains or the heroes didn't participate, but that was because the tribes were basically even, so yeah, odd. They didn't do that. So my impressions of these new tribes, I gotta be honest, even though I predicted that this would happen, I honestly felt like, I just didn't like how these tribes felt, you know? I mean, like, a little bit of it was because it appeared that Spencer and Steven were, like, getting pushed away. Okay, even though they're all other interesting characters, but, like, Bayan again gets the shaft in the edit. Even though Jeremy is like the only, and Steven, sorry, are like the only ones, that have gotten a fairly nice edit on that shot the whole season because they've never left Bayan. They're the only ones that have managed to stay on one tribe this whole time, even though it's actually Joe and Keith that have never been to a tribal. Yes, I had to look that up. But just, they again get shafted, and then on to KO. Well, I just was not liking the group dynamic a bit, even though I was nonetheless glad that the Alliance of Five on the second to KO was gone, although I actually was somewhat glad that at least the women that were in that alliance were keeping together some form of alliance, because when the alliance was Sierra, Kelly Wentworth, Kaz, Joe, and Keith, I just did not buy that alliance. Just wasn't something that I wanted to see stick together. But I do, however, see Kaz, Sierra, and Kelly Wentworth working together, however. That I can see. And I feel like there's some potential for that. And it was obviously nice to see Kaz and Sierra get a little bit more to do. And then, what else was the issue with Takeo? Just, I don't know what. Maybe it could just be that after two swaps, the shows feel so mishmash, you can't totally get the genuine feel bits anymore. I don't know. And also there's the fact that every time we have a second swap, either it lasts for only one episode because they're going to merge next week. That they do it at 13. That's one more than they've ever done it. Or after the second swap, even though in Cook Islands it was actually a mutiny, one tribe loses everything. At least the immunities, yeah, so, yeah, I kind of wish those trends would change a little bit. Right. And then we get the infamous bit where a Savage comes up with a fairly obvious plan to get rid of Spencer, and it makes sense. Perfectly logical reasons to do it. It's been thrown around multiple times this season. But then he tries to throw out the idea of Sierra, as what's the proper term for it? Scapegoat? Guinea pig? I know it's one of those things, yeah. And just the way he handled it, I didn't really like the way he did that. I mean, obviously I like Sierra, but it was like you have no choice in the matter. Just, that was not the good way to do it. Now, what is the good way to do it? Well, a better way to do it is to try and have Spencer's pick be the scapegoat, but you have to realize that Spencer will say anything to keep himself in the game, so that doesn't entirely work. And also, for all you know, the person who's telling you that Spencer said you could actually be lying, and that Spencer said somebody else. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that this has been done better in past seasons. I can't think of an example, but just the way Savage handled it, it just was not good, Yeah. But I gotta admit, I didn't see that much potential for Sierra really to do that much. I thought that she was just, yelling at the camera, oh, why does it have to be me? And she does actually have a little bit more reason to do that, because you gotta remember, she was, the false setup for John to be blindsided in Blood vs. Water, and she would have gone had Caleb not decided to flip the script and, well, actually, no, Caleb and Vita, sorry, flipped the script and get rid of Brad Culpepper, but for entirely different reasons, yeah. So, there was that bit, yeah. So I didn't see that much potential for Spencer to get saved. Now, on the other hand, on Bayon, what Steven was talking about with Joe, I did see a little bit more potential with that, because this season it does look like Joe is trying to do some social bits, but the fact that he's never been to Tribal, I can't totally state that with full confidence, and just every Bayon member, has only been to a few tribals, because Keith and Joe, they've never been to tribal. Tasha and Savage, they've been to 2. Jeremy, Steven, Kimmy, Monica, they've only been to once. And then the other 2, who I'm blanking on right now, I think I've only been there once. So, yeah. Okay, so just... Hmm. Oh, yeah, it's Kaz and the other one, yeah. So just what I'm... So, we gotta wait a little bit longer to see what's going to go on with Joe. And Jeremy, his interaction with Steven, well, I'm glad it actually wasn't them butting heads, even though that at the same time would have been a little interesting. And like I do understand Jeremy's deal because yeah, after Joe, Jeremy is the toughest guy, even though eventually macho male bits don't suddenly become as good after the first or second tribal in the merge, because even though they state, oh, let's get rid of the athlete right away, it never happens right away. It happens a little bit in. Genuinely. Right. And then Steven's little emotional bit, well, as someone who's never seen Token Teens, I can't totally identify with that because now that Monica's gone, Steven is the only person I haven't seen his or her season, but yeah, just I did feel for the guy, and I do get how, like, the one mistake he seemed to do is really haunting him, yeah. I'm really hoping it plays out well for him, especially since he's been a bit of a goofball this season. I mean, like, he at least admits it, unlike other goofballs that we've had, but, yeah, bit of a bummer that he went through that. So, that immunity challenge, that was a pretty interesting mashup, and fairly intense in some areas, so I like the fact that they did that. It's been a while since we've had a gross food challenge. I like those challenges. And I gotta be honest, I actually could picture myself eating some of those things, although, like, the balut and then the water beetles, I don't think I could have done that, no way, but that scorpion and tarantula, I think I would have at least tried it. I mean, like, I've got a bit of a weak stomach, okay, but as Jeremy stated, haven't eaten it forever. Who knows? So, I was a tad bit more for Bion losing, but now that I think about it, I actually think it's a little bit more beneficial for the people on that tribe to have not been to tribal and instead have the Takeo people come back and then mingle in a little bit more. I think that's better, right? So then Takeo loses, and then Sierra decides to try and flip the script with Abby to get rid of Wu, and that it turns out that Kaz is the quote-unquote swing vote. Now, if you think about this, this is actually pretty close, virtually identical to where Tony was in Kagayan, where he had the potential to get rid of either LJ or Cliff, and he ended up going with Cliff, but I gotta be honest, it really, even though I drew the parallels while I was watching the episode, it didn't feel exactly the same, because I gotta be honest, I honestly thought Kaz would be better off voting off Spencer, even though she has the exact same pros if she would keep Spencer. I hope that made sense. So just, I didn't really think that it would be Wu going. I honestly thought Spencer was going because Abby, I mean, like, she does have a reason to turn on Wu, yes, but the fact that she didn't really get any confessionals, it just came out of nowhere that she, was jumping ship. I mean, like, you could argue that she's in the same spot Jeffro was, but Abby's personality is different than Jeffro, so you can't really compare the two. Yeah. So going into Tribal, I gotta be honest, I felt that they really dragged it out, because I'm like, just, okay, enough of this, just get rid of Spencer, okay, because it seemed like because like this time, I could tell the plan was indeed to get rid of Spencer, and Kaz states perfectly that she has very valid reasons to get rid of Spencer, both strategic and personal. Although, her getting rid of Spencer, that's not Chaos Kaz, okay? That's her simply making a choice, in my eyes, really. Chaos Kaz is social, not strategic. Initiation, I think, yeah. But as it turns out, she pulls a Tony and decides to blindside Wu, and I'm glad that it wasn't Spencer because he is the better game player, and also I really did not want him, to have his last vote be for Wu in both of his seasons. Yeah, that would have been a very ironic thing to have happened to him. Yeah. So Wu goes in a fairly nice blindside, although he's happy about what happened with his performance now. And what do I think about his performance? Yeah, he was better, but he didn't get too much to show for it. I'm reasonably positive that he's satisfied with his survivor performance now, but yeah. Oh, and do I think Terry is satisfied? Well, given what we saw in the clip of him, being with his son, yeah, he's satisfied. I think the producers will try to get him back, but it's only going to be if it's the last season of the show, which we all know is either going to be a fans vs. favorites or all-star bit, yeah. Anything else to mention besides the next week bit? Honestly, I don't think so, next week, all they really show is the merge bit and that Chaos Kaz emerges, but something tells me that that's not going to be as big as we think it is. I honestly think Steven, Savage, or Joe are going to cause more things to have happen. And Jeff mentions that there's going to be a first next episode. And there's all kinds of possibilities. My personal thinking, even though there's a flaw with this, is that it could be that they do sort of what they did in Fiji, where you have a merged tribe, divide them into two groups, but instead have both of them go to tribe, or, and vote somebody out within them. Now, the weakness with that is, of course, there's an odd number of players, but, there is still ways to have something original happen. And another possibility could be that, you know how the new favorites tribe ended up throwing that immunity challenge in the 5th episode of Caramon? Maybe some people will say, we don't want to do immunity, we just want to go straight to tribal. Possibilities. I don't think either of them is going to happen, but I'm just trying to throw out a few ideas here, okay? There is still possibilities for things to have happen. Or it could be that Jeff is just simply trying to say, oh yeah, we're going to merge at 13 and have this be the first thing. Dude, seriously, okay? You've raised the bar for when the tribes merge, and then you've lowered the bar for when the tribes merge also, So, it's not that original, Jeff, yeah. Even though so far you've actually been pretty good this season, right? Not much else to mention. Later.